Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Bowers? I apologize. Ms. Bowers? Yeah. Mr. Helms? Mr. Helms?
Yes, sorry.
That's okay, thank you. Mr. Christopher?
Yes.
Dr. Marion is absent. Mr. George?
Here.
Mrs. Bird?
Yes.
And Dr. Roth?
Here.
Thank you.
Right, I need a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Mr. Christopher, second. Dr. Roth, all in favor, or sorry, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Aye.
Recognition, Dr. St. Pierre.
Recognition, I'm going to turn it over immediately to Dr. Laura Smith, and she's going to provide us the information on tonight's special recognition. Dr. Smith.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the board. Thank you, Dr. St. Pierre. We wanted to highlight for you this evening an event that happened at our PDTC Center on April 24th. Students with disabilities from our 4 middle schools, comprehensive high schools, and Elevate showcased their transition skills they had worked on all year long. The day was full of competition, learning, fun, and celebration at Fort Zumwalt's first ever annual Job Olympics. So at the Job Olympics, students get to show off their hard-earned job skills, meet new friends, and interact with volunteers from our district and community agencies. This unique event celebrates individual excellence in job skills while fostering a spirit of fun, camaraderie, and increased confidence. Students dressed in workplace attire competed in events showcasing the skills they've been learning and practicing at school, such as sorting laundry, coin recognition, stocking, folding, vacuuming, bag stuffing, etc. They had the opportunity to practice interviewing for a job in the community, and these skills were designed to help students with disabilities transition from high school into competitive integrated employment settings. Events representing real-world job employment situations were judged by the volunteers. The event was made possible by the support of many volunteers from Fort Zumwalt and Mizzou and their pre-employment program, planning for over a year, and Angie Albert's expertise, vision, and knowledge, and our hardworking middle and high school teachers who taught, provided feedback, and celebrated alongside our students with disabilities in our Essential Skills and Elevate program. I'd like to ask Angie to step up to the podium. Angie's biggest hope was that the teachers would see what an amazing experience Job Olympics is and take that back to their buildings and help students learn and grow. And based on that feedback from the day, that was achieved. The smiles on students' faces reflected their confidence, growth, and success. So I would like you to join me in thanking Angie for all of her hard work and coordination all year long.
Thank you for telling me what to do.
Smile.
Bigger.
Thanks, guys.
Next, we have comments from the public. Before we begin, please remember this is a board meeting rather than a public forum. The primary purpose of this meeting is to conduct the business of the board in a timely manner. As such, please keep the following in mind when presenting comments to the board. Individual remarks will be limited to 3 minutes and to 1 appearance per person. Also, the board president may limit comments of a repetitive nature on the same topic. Generally, comments or questions directed to the board will not be answered during the meeting. It is also important to remember that comments regarding individual students or employees, even if names are not used, may not be made during open session. Finally, the Board of Education would like to remind speakers they're responsible for any potentially defamatory comments made during the public comments portion of the meeting. First, we have Dana Asher.
Hello, I'm Dana Asher, a district resident and a teacher who just finished my 38th year of teaching. Speaking tonight as an individual, I'm going to rely on my script to ensure I cover everything in the allotted time. I took my school-issued laptop home this summer to teach Launch Summer School, enter new library books into Hope High, and update curricula. To manage my Launch into Reading classes totaling 150 for Zumwalt students across the June and July sessions, I rely heavily on paper tracking sheets and printed scripts. Since my digital workspace is crowded with Zoom windows and chat and mini lessons, the paper is an absolute logistical necessity. And this is an example, but I blocked out all the identifying student information, but this is what I have handy while I'm teaching. Because I needed to print, I saved up money from 3 separate jobs to buy a new printer. However, on May 29, a sudden district security update completely blocked personal printers from district-issued laptops. Tech support told me the only way to print at home was to buy a personal computer. They suggested I use a printer proxy to release documents at JailMud or PDTC, but this is unrealistic, as I work on Launch late at night, early in the morning, and over the weekends when those buildings are locked. Out of options, I spend money I did not have on a personal laptop just to complete my schoolwork. This is not just about me. Many teachers spend their summers preparing for the school year. Others pay out of pocket for classroom printers and ink to print color materials or paper-based IEP accommodations for our students. We have leaders like Jenny Mears doing a fantastic job with staff attraction and retention, yet we have a counterproductive technology policy that actively makes a teacher's job harder. This update completely disregards the personal time and money staff spend and sacrifice for this district. It feels like a kick in the teeth to dedicated educators. I've already bought a computer, so reversing the policy will not save my wallet, but I strongly ask the district to reconsider the restriction for the sake of every other teacher trying to do what's best for Fort Zumwalt students. Thank you.
Arnie, Dana.
Good evening, members of the Board of Education. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dienhoff, District Educational Advocate, running for County Executive on August the 4th. Couple things I want to bring to your attention. There's about 11 contracts that have some fiscal responsibility. I have some questions about some of these contracts. Hopefully, everybody actually read them. You tend to put a lot of things that are very important on the consent agenda, which means it gets glanced over, gets passed, or rubber stamped from administration without asking the important questions of accountability, responsibility, and transparency. The next issue is the Board of Education meeting agendas. I believe the software is Assembly. It's very difficult to get to. Last couple of meetings I've been talking to you about that. Hopefully IT can find a way to put it on the front page of the district website to easily maneuver to the agenda. You have to go through a series of several maneuvers to get to the agenda. And somebody who's not familiar or doesn't come to board meetings would have a really, really hard time trying to find the Board of Education meeting agenda. District lack of accountability and reply to parents and patrons. There's been 2 parents that have, or a married couple that has come to you and brought some substantial allegations and information to the Board of Education, but it goes on deaf ears. I've heard about the story, I've heard about the details, I want to find out more details, but it's mum from everybody sitting up there, including the superintendent and the assistant and deputy superintendent sitting to my right. It's shameful that you let this compound, and go on and on without having some type of resolution. As a matter of fact, scale of opportunity and economy, the superintendent and every member of the cabinet, every deputy superintendent and every assistant superintendent doesn't even live in our school district, but yet takes millions upon millions of dollars of salary to Lincoln County, to Warren County, to Monroe County, Illinois, to St. Louis County, and to the western part, the Wentzville School District, and doesn't pay or doesn't spend their money supporting our neighbors and our businesses here in the Fort Zumwalt School District with our villages and municipalities. And it's shameful that we have our top leaders of the cabinet don't even invest and don't even have residency within our own school district, and that really puts up a lot of red flags for me. The next issue is the Panorama contract that's on your agenda. I believe that you could do surveys instead for $175,000. There's a lot of free tools. SurveyMonkey is one of them. Google. You could do that in-house with our full-time communications, and she has other staff members that assist her. You could do it for zero or little to no money. And the same
On
thing
to our
with,
consent agenda. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented, please. Mr. Christopher, second. Mr. George, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Financial reports.
All right, good evening, thanks for having me. Sorry, thanks for having me. Tonight for the financial report, we're just gonna discuss the budget mostly. Next week, we'll discuss the kind of May financial statements. I do wanna start with the positive, because I know I can be, sometimes we get the financials and be a little bit negative, but for our next year, I just wanna start with our next year's budget. We only have bus and fleet vehicle debt in there. This is the first time in many years we haven't had debt related to computers, curriculum, copiers that we're still paying off from prior years. It's good. It reflects that the money we're going to spend next year is for expenditures we're going to incur next year, not as many expenditures from the past. And the other really good news I have is if the fiscal year ended today, we would not need to make that additional transfer to the medical fund. Our claims have remained low. I'm a bit skeptical of it, but they have remained low for a few months now, and hopefully it continues that way. And that would be really good to help with our future budgeting if we get to this point where our premiums are actually covering our claims. There's just no surprises a year. I really hope we continue that trend. We put a lot of work into it as a district to get there. I like to share the privilege there. And also just before next fiscal year could finish with a slight surplus, there's two big payments we're waiting on that are really going to determine if we finish with a surplus or not. The first is the state still owes us about $2.4 million for early childhood special education and IDEA funding. And the other big check we're waiting on is a $2.4 million insurance reimbursement related to the roof. That is a check we requested in March, because I didn't want to get to this point, and we have sent increasingly urgent emails to our insurance company asking for that reimbursement by year end. But assuming those two come in, we will finish with a slight surplus. All right, and now I'll just get to the budget for next year. As I talked the past couple of months, I didn't want there to be any surprises. I wanted time to evaluate the budget over the months went through. We're at a $1.8 million operating loss for next year, and the reason for that is our revenues are only going to grow 1.4%, while our expenditures are going to grow 2.6%. A 2.6% expenditure growth, that's less than inflation. So we're keeping our expenditures below inflation. It's hard to beat that. And as I said, we might have made some decisions differently had we known the state was going to lower revenues as much as they have. We've committed to our computer purchases, we've committed to our raises. There's just all sorts of things we agreed before we found out late May that the revenues were going to decrease. As far as the revenue increase of 1.43%, half of that is because I am going to recommend lowering the amount of property tax going to the capital fund next year. It's currently 7 cents, and we're probably about 3 cents next year, and that 4 cents going to the operating fund. I mean, without that, our revenue growth would be less than 1%, and our deficit would be even higher. I hate to do that because long-term, we need a capital projects fund balance for, there's surprises that happen. And if we don't have a fund balance, then you're paying it out of operating. But desperate times, you have to make measures like that. Prop C, formula, and transportation are 3 big state payments that make up about 30% of our budget, are down $1.6 million next year based on guidance we got from the state. That's quite incredible from my perspective. year to year, these revenues have always increased, across the state. For them to go down, all three of them at the same time, it's not just hurting us. There's districts near us that are having a negative $10 million conversation tonight, a negative 13 million. We've worked really hard to keep it at 2, and it's just so hard with the state lowering revenues. I mean, if they just went up a little bit, our whole deficit, we wouldn't have a deficit. We would break even. And the other thing is early childhood special education. Our payment, there seems to be payment delays from the state, and they keep limiting what they're going to reimburse every year. I mean, from my perspective, they're defunding it just, through administrative changes. So I didn't pick, an accurate or an increase that matches the increase in the expenditures like I normally would. I'm just trying to be realistic there. So maybe it turns out better. I just don't know if it will. And then, so that's our revenue situation. On the expenditure side, we're looking at about 280 million, which is a 2.6% increase, as I noted. That does include raises of about 4% for almost all employees. And as I've noted in the past, that's been afforded by retirements. We have hit, the number of retirements we needed to make that. Any extra retirements we get, it's all going to go to putting that deficit, lowering how much we have in our deficit. And then, salaries are always our biggest expenditures. Salaries and benefits are 80%. So just some numbers, certified salaries make up 60% of our salary and benefit number, and it's for 1,473 positions. Classified staff, our bus drivers, our nutrition workers, our custodians, they make up 970 employees, or 23% of the cost. Paras are 5.5% of total expenditures for 374 employees. That's not quite a full-time equivalent, but it's close. And then admins are 7.2% and 105 employees. The remaining salaries are dedicated to subs, extra duty, and the sick leave pay. So, and then if we go to look at the other expenditures, they're kind of modest increases year to year. We do have a full, as I stated, we're going to pay for our new curriculum in full, and we're going to pay for our new laptops in full instead of putting those on loans that we're then paying in 2028, 2029. And out of those, my biggest concern is our contracted transportation. We were really counting on a decrease next year. Just the way our end of the year numbers are occurring, it's hard for me to now still expect that decrease. So there might have to be some adjustments to that number, which would increase our deficit. But I can tell you, Jeff Schwepker, Jeremy, me, Henry, we're very engaged, and we're looking at this from every angle. We're going to try to find a way to lower that. We're going to start the year without any contract with Axle, which, we spend over $1 million a year with Axle. So that would help if we continue to not use them. And just because this is a portion of interest, or at least it's what people ask me about, gas is budgeted at just slightly under $1 million next year. That's a 28% increase from just 2025. So in the overall budget, it's not much, but when you have a deficit, you look at every penny. And then further on, if you just look at the budget, we do have forward-looking statements. Those are all based on expenditures from this year, which include that larger computer purchase, larger curriculum. So hopefully we can reduce it some. But if we stay on the same trend, a roughly 2.5% expenditure increase, a 1.5% revenue increase, that deficit starts to grow very fast to 6 million, 9 million. And by 2030, I estimate we would have to borrow money in November, to meet payroll, to meet our payables obligations, unless we do something to reduce the deficit. So I think that is just going to be our financial focus for the next few years. And is there, any questions on the budget?
I need a motion to approve the financial reports as presented. Mr. George, second, Mr. Christopher. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. New business.
On a new business, first item up we have is our demographic study review, and the board has contracted with a couple of agencies to help with our long-range plan for the Fort Zumwalt School District, one of which being a demographic study, the second of which being a physical and facility needs assessment. We will bring back the results of this physical and facility needs assessment in July. But right now, for this meeting, we are happy to introduce Ms. Jenna Wallace with RSP, and RSP's worked really hard. We've worked really well with them to prepare this report for the board's review. There will be no action that's required on this. This is information sharing. And Ms. Wallace is going to spend a little bit of time going over the highlights of this demographic study that you've had now for about a week or so to peruse, and then certainly will be able to answer any questions that you might have. Turn it over to Ms. Wallace.
All right, thank you, everybody. Good evening. My name is Jenna Wallace with RSP. And so, let's see if my clicker works. There we go. So a little bit about RSP. So we are a firm that solely works with school districts. We work all over the Midwest, assisting with enrollment planning and facility conversations. We're based out of Kansas City, but work really throughout all of the Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, Illinois areas. And so the report that I have today is pretty lengthy. I don't plan to speak to every slide. This is why we send it a little bit in advance. You guys can look over it as well. I'm just going to hit the high points from each of those parts. And then if there's any questions or comments that you guys have, I'll answer the best that I can, or I can also take that back to my team and work out some maybe deeper questions that may need some additional analysis. And so the report here is broken out into the 4 main parts, a little bit about enrollment, and then looking at development and growth, and then part 3 is projections. And so digging in to the report, you have an executive summary that gives you the overview of what's in the report. So a year from now, when you're like, what the heck did she say with this report? You can reference back to this slide. So in our forecast model, we do have the district decreasing over these next 5 years at about a 5% rate by 2030-31. And so it's pretty balanced loss at each of the levels, about a 1 to 2% decrease at elementary, middle, and high school. And so some of those key variables that leading into that. Most of this comes from the imbalance between our 2 class sizes on the upper and lower ends. So graduating larger classes, then incoming kindergarten classes creates this organic loss that we have to offset through other variables. And so I'll get into all those different variables and how we're landing on these numbers. And so part 1 of the report, you have lots of maps in the report. So I'll go through these pretty quick, but this gives you your current district boundary, elementary boundary, and then middle school boundary. This visual, go back one. Thank you. All right, so this visual gives you the methodology of looking at student data. And so part of really the cornerstone to the forecast model comes down to your planning areas. You can think of them as basically every neighborhood or building block of the community. And so this visual gives you a sense of how many RSP planning areas go into each census block. We analyze looking at what's the housing type, what's the price of homes, how many students 10 years ago, how many students next year. This all gives us the ability to project 5 years from now at each of those neighborhoods. And so if you're a math person, we have the model illustrated here, but I think it's better to go ahead to the next slide of looking at really how you understand the model. So all the variables that are even in the back end of the report that I won't present tonight all fit into this greater indicator of growth or limitation of growth. And we're reading all of that and pushing out that most likely forecast that you guys can use for planning. And so one of our first key variables that we look at is the county live birth rate. And so this gives us a sense on a demographic perspective of how many births were there 5 years ago versus the kindergarten class. And so we're looking at about a 26 to 25% market share of St. Charles County live births. And this gives us a kind of range from a demographic lens of the next 5 years of kindergarten students based on the live births 5 years ago. And so this top graphic gives you that perspective. We have been seeing a decreasing live birth trend. This is pretty common. It's what we've been seeing in most of the school districts that we work with. Millennials waiting longer to have kids or having less kids. It is one of those just demographic trends that comes at a limitation to school districts all over, that with less babies, we're having this challenge to have growing kindergarten enrollment. And we also have here, so your past enrollment by grade. And so this gives you the last 10 years of that student data. We have been seeing that decreasing trend year to year, about a 1 to 2% loss. And kind of like I said in that executive summary, a lot of that coming from the imbalance between our class sizes. So for example, just this year, where your 12th grade class was over 1,400 and the kindergarten class around about 1,000, that imbalance between those two grades means you have to pick up 300 students in one of the other grades to offset that. And what's the likelihood that you guys do that year after year? And so we analyze that on this next visual, which is your grade progression. So what are the trends happening between the grade levels? Red numbers being you tend to decrease, black numbers increase. And so we do tend to see pretty good cohort progression. And that's what is really your best ability to offset that organic loss, as you're relying on the pickup of students from 5th to 6th grade and 8th to 9th grade to offset some of that. This past year, we did see a little bit less grade progression, and so that came in to impact a little bit of that greater growth rate that you saw from 24-25 to 25-26. And this next visual gives you a sense of those two variables. And so the top graphic comparing historically 12th grade versus kindergarten. And over these next 5 years, we have this forecasted where they do become closer in size. And so this is really critical to that future stability and more of that lowering, decreasing rate. As 12th grade trends downward, as they have classes that are smaller backfill, we have kindergarten stabilizing and those two values become closer together. So it becomes more of a natural curve rather than a steep decline over these next 5 years. We also look in the model at migration trend. And so this is looking at those middle grades. So like 1st to 11th grade. Orange is I'm a new student to the district. Green is I was a student last year and I've transferred out of state, private, homeschool, something like that. And that student ID left the district. And so what we did see with the student data was the past 2 years, there was a net gain. And then this year we had a net loss. We had more students leave the district than new students come in. And a lot of that net loss happening at that elementary level. And so that really aligns well with that lower cohort progression that we saw. Just two different variables that really talk to, there's a bit of that slowdown in those early grades. We also have this same analysis just for the current year provided by the buildings. So same thing, orange, I was a new student to that school. Green, I was a past student that I left, with the net of what that change is between the bottom and the top highlighted in kind of the dashed lines in the middle of the bars. The next analysis in the model we also look at is out of district. And so this is your open enrolled or any students that have addresses out of the district boundary. And so this is really more so reliant on different like state and district policy. So different changes to your district boundary policy of staff kids or McKinney-Vento or those types of things can fit into this. A pretty low percentage overall for your district. So we don't weight this very highly in the model, but it is a good, I think, snapshot of what you guys are looking at if the state of Missouri changes any of their statewide open enrollment policies. Gives you an understanding of how many current students reside out of the district boundary. And then we have two visuals here that look at the density of our students. And so this gives you a neighborhood perspective where orange neighborhoods have increased the past 5 years, green, they've decreased. And so you can kind of see this patchwork quilt where two neighborhoods right by each other, one could be growing and one could be decreasing. And that comes down to what we call that subdivision life cycle of when two units generate more students and more families versus when do they age in place. And this gives you that perspective of the last 5 years. And then we couple that with your student density. And so hotter the red, the more students that live in close proximity to one another. And so you can see here we're generally south of I-70 have a greater student density, but where it's red, it's pretty red. So there are clusters that have a lot of kids in different pockets of the community. And so that goes into part 1 of the report. You can see how these different variables, some are more limitations. Really your greatest indicator or way to offset some of those limitations comes down to that cohort progression and picking up students between our different grade level transitions. And so getting into part 2 of the report, looking at development and growth, this first visual correlates 3 important variables. And so the green line is your population change year to year. Total people living in the district boundary. This has been pretty steady increasing. So we know more people are living within the district. The blue line is our building activity. So how many new units have been built? And this is also, a little bit up and down, but overall still positive, still building about that 100 to 200 units a year. But then the bottom line, the red, is our student enrollment. So what we're kind of visually illustrating here is despite more people living in the community and despite more houses being built, we've been seeing this decreasing trend in K-12 enrollment. And so there's a lack of correlation between those growth. It doesn't mean that it's non-existent, but we're looking at a pretty limited correlation of people, houses to students. We also look at, for this visual, is the yield rate analysis. So the number of students per 100 housing units. Orange bars is your typical single family neighborhood. Green is your multifamily, so apartments, townhomes, and then blue is mobile homes. And so what this shows us that over the past 10 years, really students are generated from single family inventory and mobile home inventory. Apartments and townhomes yield much fewer students per 100 units. And so that plays into our growth analysis of how many future students can come from new developments and how it fits into this yield rate of how many students historically do you generate, how many students do we think you'll generate when you come online. We have in the model all of the residential information that we can pull. So we know the age of the inventory, the price of the inventory. This visual gives you the top graphic historically over time, how many units were built per decade. So you can see the ramp up of units. Currently 5 years into our decade, we're at about 2,300 units. So pretty well on track with the previous decade. And then that bottom graphic giving you the perspective of the type of housing. Majority single family inventory, not a lot of mobile homes, but those mobile homes do yield more students. That multifamily kind of being scattered throughout the district, but having that lower yield rate. This map gives you the perspective of the past 5 years of housing inventory. So in our analysis, we even dive in deeper to units that have just been built the past 5 years to see what is that relationship of new construction to students in the district. And so you can see with this dot map, the different clusters of neighborhoods that have been the most active. And then we look at, okay, what is the potential for future growth? What is in the queue with our different cities? And so we meet with the different cities, with their planning departments, as well as driving and touring the district to put together this map. So green areas is current or active development. They've either started some dirt infrastructure or they're expected to within the year. Yellow and purple is more long-term growth. So yellow, we think that should start happening 4 to 5 years. Purple longer than that, about 5 to 10 years. I will say that this is always the best known information that we can. There's nothing stopping somebody coming in and putting in a submittal tomorrow. But this gives you, as of our different meetings with the city this spring and the tour, what we're forecasting for that residential growth perspective. And so all the areas on the map correspond with this table. So we're looking at about 2,000 potential housing units in the queue. Green being the projects that are most likely to continue building out. Those are weighted more heavily in the model as we think they're going to be coming online over these next 5 years. And those different units are plugged into what attendance boundary do they reside in. And so this gives you the perspective of how many potential units in each of our elementary schools, as well as the secondary feeder along the x-axis. And so we're looking at where north and east high school boundaries have more potential growth than our other high schools, but it's pretty well spread out. So there some districts we see where growth is very, very concentrated into one school, and pretty well balanced, but definitely some feeders with a little bit more growth than others. And then last variable for this section just looks at that regional project. And so we're looking at, what is the relationship with population and new jobs, and very positive point of the presentation here with a lot of exciting things happening throughout your entire corridor. And so knowing more jobs and greater infrastructure and livability projects going online, that's a good boost to that kind of overall regional demographic. And so that goes through part 2. So you can see how some of these different indicators of growth, they come in to offset some of those limitations that were in part 1. And then we lead into our part 3, which is our enrollment projections. And so on this visual here, you have the past 10 years of student data and the forecasted 5 years. And so in our model, what we have is elementary decreasing by 145 students by 2030-31. At the middle school, a decrease of 187 students. And then at high school, a decrease of 188. So overall, a decrease of about 520 students by 2030-31. And so you can see this is pretty well balanced between our grade levels. Middle school has the highest percentage of decrease at about a 5% rate, coming down to the classes that are currently in the middle school, moving into the high school and being replaced back in with those smaller elementary grades that we're currently serving. And so that goes through really the bulk of the report here. And so you have some different observations of what we're seeing for that enrollment loss. You can go ahead to the next slide, one more. And so we always want to leave you with really how to use this report. So at the end of this, here's just some facts of what you should know of what we're looking at for that relationship between live births and kindergarten, what's happening with our housing developments, what's happening with population, leading into that most likely conclusion of that sustained enrollment decline over these next 5 years. But as the farther you get out of this projection model, you'll see that percent loss decreases. So your greatest drop would be actually coming into this next year of 26-27. And as those black classes become more similar in size, more so flattening out and having a bit of a stable enrollment trend. Let me go ahead, one more slide. So conclusion here, we also really just want you guys to use this report for all of the kind of great foundation it can provide. So knowing that all this data is aligned to your students, your community, we really want it to be the foundation to make those data informed discussions. There's even more information that's in the appendix for different questions. But we really want you to know that all the hard work that goes into this report, really creating a good tool for you guys to use in your different planning. So with that, are there questions or comments, anything that I can help you guys with that would maybe help the understanding of the report?
Did you have a question, Kat?
Hi. Yes, thank you. I have a quick question back on slide 29 for the development table. Is the existing units number included in the potential units number, or are those two different numbers? So like that first one.
Yep. So those are two different numbers. And so
Okay.
existing units are, because some of these developments have been building out, we know how many they have completed. And so that's the existing. And then potential is how many we have left to build over these next
More
5 years.
potentially.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
the bar chart that's on the following page is only the potential units column. Perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah. Questions?
No, very extensive.
Thank you. All right. Thank you guys. Have a good night.
Thanks, John. Okay, next item under new business is our panorama agreement. Dr. Laura Smith is going to present that, and it's Dr. Laura Smith's last board meeting.
Thank you, Dr. St. Pierre. As Dr. St. Pierre referenced, we are speaking this evening about the Panorama Service Agreement. Wanted to provide you just a little bit of background information about what Panorama provides for us and how we utilize that. There's primarily 3 uses at this point: the school survey platform, the student success platform, and the Panorama playbook. So the first and most commonly known component of Panorama is that survey platform. And specifically, the Panorama platform allows us to do some pretty remarkable things. So it allows us to maintain the data from our school community that helps us to better understand how to service our students, parents, teachers, and staff. It gives us longitudinal data that we can utilize in many ways in analysis. It allows us to progress towards goals in those strategies to be monitored over time, whether that be a student goal, a building goal, a district goal. It also allows data-driven goals to fuel all of our improvement efforts here as a district. The student success platform allows educators to learn more about the children that are in front of them. It allows them to uncover hidden insights because it compiles all of the information that we have about our students that's housed in our student information system and in coordination with the survey information that students tell us, gives us those insights that they don't often verbalize to us themselves. It allows our educators to take action to drive improvement at all levels throughout the district. The administration is using it all the way down to our staff that are working with just individual students who struggle. It allows us to identify when interventions are needed, to note data on progress and monitor that. It allows, it houses all of our reading success plans, which are required by the state of Missouri for us to design and continue to monitor. So it really gives us a good picture of where our students are and allows us to manipulate those groups of students. The Panorama Playbook is the third component, and it is a professional learning library. It assists for us to have a bank of ideas, strategies to try with any problem that we identify through utilizing the platform. So that might be an individual student who's struggling with academics or with leadership skills and social emotional, all the way to groups of students in entire buildings and looking at the entire district as a whole. It informs and allows us to set and monitor progress on the goals in our CSIP. It allows individual providers like our mental health providers and our behavior specialists to pull groups to identify those targeted behaviors or our areas that need to improve, to enter data over time, and then to monitor that progress. So in all, the 3 of those components of the platform fuel our district implementation of MTSS, informs and allows us to set and monitor progress on the goals within our CSIP, and then allows those individuals to work with kids. I would be happy to answer any questions you may have about the Panorama platform, but I do ask that you approve that service agreement.
I need a motion to approve the Panorama agreement as presented. Mr. George, second. Mr. Christopher, any discussion?
I had a question.
Go ahead, Kat.
And Dr. I don't know if you know this off the top of your head. Do you know how long we've been using this service?
Dr. St. Pierre shaking his head, yes.
I'm shaking my head because I'm hoping you know it's been 4+ years, maybe 6 years.
I'm looking, I have sorry, I do not have that in front of me.
Yeah, we think 5 to 6 years.
Okay. Thank you.
Certainly.
Any other questions or discussion?
Okay.
Go right ahead.
Question. I'm so sorry. I'm not good at the chat. Oh, yeah. Just thinking about, because we've seen so many technology breaches in the last year or so, I did a quick Google search to see if Panorama comes up with any concerns. Are you aware of any problems we've had in the time we've been using Panorama? Have they had any data breaches? Or it sounds like we own the data. Do you know anything about the technical side? I'm just wondering if there's been any concerns.
I am not aware of any concerns. I do know that it passes the minimum standards that are required in order for us to contract with a technology platform. And the data that it is utilizing is the data that we do house within our student information system and the Panorama platform.
Thank you.
In any of these vendors that we contract with, they do agree to our data privacy regulations and agreement as well. So it's something that, it's a good question. It's not something that we take lightly.
Anyone else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have our Power School agreement, and this will be for the 26-27 school year. Mrs. Erin Williams is going to present that for us.
Hi, good evening. So yes, you have in front of you the agreement for Power School, also known as Talent Ed. This is our main platform for human resources information systems. This is for our candidate portal. It also houses our employee records and is our evaluation platform. I don't know how long we've had this platform either, but it's been quite a while. We would, as you can see in the memo provided, we are looking at other software companies and would be recommending another software shortly. But because it is such a big undertaking and does touch 3,000 employees, it will be a big implementation process. So we would have to carry over to programs for at least, or for a year, no longer than. But we believe that what we will present soon will be cost savings and better for our employees all around. But right now, what we would like is your approval to carry on with Power School for the 26-27 school year.
I need a motion to approve Power School agreement as presented. Dr. Roth, second. Mr. George, any discussion?
Yes, I'm just gonna, follow-up question, looking at the memo. So, you mentioned that I know the proposal's coming next month, but it looks like that new system will integrate 3 systems. Is that aside from the financial point that you mentioned, is that the primary reason why we're looking elsewhere? Or just?
It's a myriad of it. Yeah. It's a lot. Yeah.
Okay. But for now, it sounds like this would be our best solution for
Correct.
next year.
Yep.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item under new business is to appoint our Board of Education officers, being secretary and treasurer. Mr. Whittle currently serves as the treasurer. Mrs. Jamie Marks currently serves as our board secretary. It certainly is the board's prerogative as to whom the board would like to appoint. But the recommendation would be to continue with these 2 individuals in these roles for the next school year. And Jamie Marks is not here tonight, so she can't say no.
I need a motion to appoint Jamie Marks as the Board of Education Secretary. Mr. Christopher, second. All right, Dr. Roth, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Congratulations, Jamie and Brian. And our last item would be our Board of Education. I am so sorry.
I need a motion to appoint Brian Whittle as the Board of Education Treasurer. Deidre Roth, second. Mr. George, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Brian, congratulations. Now, let's look at the, apologize for that, the Board of Education meeting dates for 26, 27. The recommendation is to follow a similar pattern as we have this year, which is third Thursday of the month, with the exception of that last June board meeting, which will deviate off that pattern just a bit, but have those dates for you so that we can get those dates set and put them on the calendar and make them known to everybody.
I need a motion to approve the 26-27 Board of Education meeting dates as presented. Mr. Christopher, second. Dr. Roth, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you. Next, we have comments from the board. Let's start with you, Mr. George.
All right. So now the board is pleased to announce the district is hosting 2 opportunities this month for our community to see the new transportation center and to participate in roundtable conversations about our future. Join us at the time that works best for you, 9:30 a.m. Monday, June 29th, or 6 p.m. Tuesday, June 30th. We look forward to seeing you at the Transportation Center, 2100 Salt River Road in St. Peters. And here's an exciting announcement. Each year, the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra receives thousands of submissions for its Picture the Music contest. Congratulations to the 15 students from Dardenne, Emge, Flint Hill, and Osmond Elementary Schools recognized in the top 100. You can see the gallery of winners on the Picture the Music website. And in honor of Pride Month, I wore this shirt. I'll read the title. We the People means everyone. So think about that, and that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Christopher.
Yeah, first thing, Laura, thanks for all the hard work while you've been with us. We appreciate it. Best wishes for the future.
Thank you.
Enjoy it.
I will.
I'd like to say something about that, about the study that was done on the demographics, very extensive. Took a lot of time and read through it, and I think it's going to be very beneficial for us to continue to look at it. It's interesting that even though the population in St. Charles County is increasing, our student is decreasing slightly. And it's in the report, but a large portion of it is the multifamily homes that have less children in the birth rate. So it's great information for us to have over the next 5 years to help us and Brian trying to figure out, how we're going to continue to do a good job and the money and different things. So I think that's a very valuable tool for us. Got a couple shout outs to our sport teams. I want to say congratulations to South High girls soccer team. They won their 4th state championship in the past 6 years, defeating St. Michael Archangel in 2-1 in the final. Hard fought battle, and that's an amazing accomplishment. 4 state titles in 6 years. There's a lot of schools that never get one. So great job there. I want to give congratulations to some track and field standouts. East High's girls track team, they're district champions. And that includes Bryson Spears, district champion in the triple jump and high jump. And Avery Foster, district champion and now 3 times state champion in the pole vault. And that's a heck of an event. I had 2 daughters that did it, and it's pretty fun to watch, and it's pretty amazing. And also to Katie Volz, who's district champion in the shot put. So congratulations to all them. Great job.
I think one of the most important things that we have in our schools is our student nutrition department and the work that they do to feed all of our children each day. Over the years, our community has reached out, people in the community wanting to help families clear their overdrawn meal account balances. So now to make that easier, we have a dedicated spot on our website for donations. So if you would like to support any FC student who's in need, go to fc.k12.mo.us. Click on the No Kid Goes Hungry news item on the landing page. And thank you for those partnering with our families, because it really does take all of us. So I'm excited to see this.
Ms. Bird?
Thank you. I'll just start off with Brian. I want to say thank you. I really appreciate you watching every step and taking care of everything with that. Really appreciate it. Laura, thank you for everything that you have done for our district, and all the best with your next chapter. And Jenna and RSP, wow. I love all the information, especially the maps, the charts, and all the graphs. I really appreciate everything you guys have done to put that together for us.
She's done.
I think Gabriel had to go to they got a call, so.
We just thought you were out.
Right, congratulations to Jaheim Davis and Stephanie Mingy. The 7th grade tag team from West Middle are the certified rookie of the year at Mighty Mentor. Jaheim is positive, energetic, smart, kind, firm, and eager. Stephanie wrote in her nomination. In his nomination, Jaheim wrote that Stephanie truly made my entire first year of teaching feel like a breeze through an unwavering support and generosity. Awesome job. Miss Laura, we're gonna miss you so much. Thank you for everything you've done. You've really made a difference in so many levels and lives in this district, including mine, and I appreciate everything. So best of luck and enjoy the relaxation.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, this concludes our open session. Our agenda, we will not return into open session after closed session. I need a motion to go into closed session in accordance with RMSO 610.021 to discuss the approval of minutes from the May 21st, 2026 closed session meeting, hiring, firing, promotion of personnel, and legal matters.
So motion.
Mr. Christopher, second. Mr. George, roll call, please.
Mrs. Powers,
Yes.
Mr. Holmes, Mr. Christopher,
Yes.
Mr. George,
Yes.
Mr. Bird,
Yes.
Dr. Roll.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm okay.